All right, I have finally built my dream bookshelf setup. From my own blood, sweat, and tears, I birthed these shelves into existence, and they will now be the backdrop for the mega summaries, newses, and can I solve it's from here on out into the future. And I want to take the time to show you exactly how to build one of these yourself every single step of the way. That way you can have a shelf that is entirely yours and no one else's. I do like the floating shelf style, so that's the tutorial I will be giving here, though many of the lessons can be applied to building like standalone pieces if that's your taste too. I can't say this is going to be an incredibly cheap process, though I'm going to give you a bunch of tips to save money. And at the end of the day, you'll have spent hopefully around about as much as you would for one of those IKEA shelves that every time you take a book off of it, it shakes. And instead of having that, you'll have something that is really goddamn sturdy. And while you can like reinforce IKEA shelves with L braces and stuff, it's never going to be something that feels unique and have your special zzzz. After we're done with the bookshelf, I'm going to turn this into a general office tour as well. But while it's still fresh in my brain, let us go ahead and jump on into the tools you'll need to create a bookshelf from the ground up. Yeah, I've started way back in the day with buying those IKEA shelves, reinforcing them. Eventually, I started making my own shelves, and I love this. This is my dream setup. I got a little L, and the whiteboard's framed. It's gonna be so good. I'm not gonna tell you how to install a whiteboard. I can't imagine you need that in your setup. Just install a whiteboard and build around it. It's not that hard. But okay, what you're going to need to be able to do this, period, is a few power tools. If you have no experience with power tools, get someone who does to help you, because I have injured myself many times with power tools, and injuries from power tools are not nice. They don't stop because you say ow. Specifically, this drill, I've given myself 2 black eyes with, because there's a setting where it's like, oh, don't stop turning no matter how much resistance you meet, and it took that right into my face. Back to back. That happened within 5 seconds of each other.
All right, I got. Ah!
Don't be stupid with power tools. That being said, you're going to need a drill. This is a DeWalt. I stand by DeWalt in terms of the quality of their product. I've used a lot of DeWalt stuff, but I've pretty much been given all of my DeWalt power tools as gifts because they tend to be a bit more expensive. There are cheaper brands like Milwaukee, I believe, and Craftsman that you should certainly take a look at. Though, fun fact, a lot of libraries also have power tools you can rent. That's amazing, as well as community centers and things along those lines. The one thing I would really recommend doing, because it will ruin your day if you don't do this, is to get a backup battery. A lot of times you can check them out. They'll even come with 2 batteries and something to charge them with, because it's really annoying to be holding up a shelf, trying desperately to balance, and you're like, okay, drill it in. Oh, that's dead. I'm stuck here now. You're typically only going to need 1 drill bit, and that's going to be your standard Phillips head. I constantly strip screws because I don't double check sizes for Phillips heads, but I got through all of this bookshelf assembly with just 1 Phillips head that came with the drill, and it worked fantastic. Next super important piece of equipment is a stud finder. I'm not going to do the joke. I'm not going to beep, haha, no. This is going to let you find the wood beams that are hidden every 16 inches behind your wall. As you can see, I hit every single one of them because I don't want this shelf falling on me. I was really thorough to make sure to get as many as I could because I've had shelves fall before, and it's terrifying. And even though these look like they just have 1 bracket supporting them, you never want 1 bracket supporting a whole shelf. There's a second hidden one. I just didn't want to have that uneven look, so I got like invisible ones underneath on the far left side. That's going to be my next big thing. Make sure you hit studs on every single one, but make sure you're not drilling into a water pipe. I've done that. It was the worst day of my power tool life. I drilled into a fucking, what I thought was a stud. It gave, and I was like, that feels weird. Why is it pushing? Huh. And then I drilled out, and it turned out to be the main water vein into my house. Water shot from my wall across my apartment and hit the backsplash of my kitchen. I called my dad in a panic because apparently I didn't just think go turn off the water line, and asked him what to do. And he was like, go turn off the water line, as I'm holding my hand against this wall, water leaking around my hand. Couldn't find the water line, and then had to take a hammer, bash open the wall, grab the pipe and hold it until a plumber got there. Make sure you're not hitting a water line. And so some stud finders will actually tell you if what they're scanning is electrical or water underneath it. I was doing the old school tactic because I thought I was cool of like, oh, that's a stud. Don't do that. You're not Tim the Toolman Taylor. Trust the technology. Next thing you're going to need, tape measure. This is obvious. I mean, you want to make sure you're measuring and hitting exactly where things need to go. There's an old saying you've probably heard before: measure twice, cut once. Do that. Always double check your measurements. I even on a couple of these was a little bit off, and so I had to come in and actually cut a little pocket of the wood so that it would go flush to the whiteboard. You're going to want to make sure you do that. I'm still making mistakes after building like 6 or 7 of these shelves. Now, to save you a little bit of guesswork and measuring that I had to go through and figure out for myself, books on average range from just a few inches tall up to just over 10 inches, which would be a hardback in a box generally. And so for my spacing preferences, I put about 15 inches between each shelf. Oh, I nailed that. The reason I do that is to leave space for a little bit of knackage and to prevent it from looking cramped. And every now and then you will also find a non-standard size book that goes even beyond the 10 inches, and now I can account for that. So with that in mind, obviously you just take however much wall space you want to devote to carrying shelves and start dividing it by 15. Always account for the fact, though, when you're lining things up on the wall, that the bracket is going to start a couple inches lower than where your screw is actually going to go in to find the stud. So you want to actually measure from the bottom of your bracket to that spot where your screw is going to go in, and that's where you mark the wall. But we'll get more into how to actually save time with mounting brackets in a minute. Because you are going to have weird angles and stuff where you aren't going to be able to drill, a Phillips head screwdriver will help a lot, and that innately implies you're going to want to get some screws. Duh. Oh, and the last super important piece of equipment is a level. There is no greater feeling than when you are done building your shelves, dropping a level down and seeing that bubble sit in the middle. Oh, it's beautiful. That's dead in the middle. That's dead in the middle. And then I should use these. I never do. Gloves. But finally, something that people might not have thought of is you also need not just the Phillips head screw to drive in your screws, but also drill bits. Because you're not going to just blindly drill into the wall whenever you think you have found one with a stud finder, because occasionally this adds a little bit of spice to the process. Stud finders lie and are off by an inch. And so you're going to use one of the smallest size drill bits you can find and drill pilot holes to make sure you are actually hitting the studs every single time going in. This will save you making ghost holes that you then have to putty over and paint. And oh my God, which is actually going to take me to step 1 of this whole process, and I think is a really solid choice overall. First couple shelves I built, I just put shelves over white wall, and I never really was happy with it. So I recommend, before you do the dedicated process of putting up all these shelves, that if you want to change the paint behind them, you'll have to take all down. Use it as an excuse to also pick out however much paint you need, a great color, and paint this whole place. I've done a nice olive green here because last time I did this, I think I chose like a really dark blue and I wasn't thrilled with it. And then my last house, I just had white and I always thought that was boring. This nice like olivey green, I think, is wonderful. And my office is like divided in 2 parts. There's like a half wall here. So I did red on the other side. And it's like borderline Christmassy, cozy, and warm all the time. Love that. I do have tips for painting. You're going to want to get a couple extra rollers, get tons of tape to just absolutely tape the crap out of the room to make sure you don't go over the lines. There's people on YouTube who say like, you don't need to do taping if you have this proper technique down. You're not a painter. You don't have that proper technique down. Tape it up. In fact, buy one of these paper rolls, put it on over the floor. Get one of the brushes that says it can handle both stain and paint, because later on you're going to be using it again for stain. Go ahead, paint everything 2 coats. Even if you buy the paint, in my experience, it says you're only going to need 1 coat. That's a bullshit lie. You're going to need to do 2 coats. And then, according to everyone I've talked to, don't paint your ceiling because that makes the room feel shorter. I don't know if that's true or not. It's just what people who are smarter than me said. Seriously, this whole room was covered in tape. Even along the ceiling, I taped it off because I knew I would make strops and splotches, which I still did, but the tape prevented the majority of it. Another fun fact, I've seen a lot of people fully tape up and around their electrical sockets. I don't think that actually does a very good job because it's always going to bleed through the tape a tiny bit, or you'll miss a little itty bitty corner and then your socket's got a tiny bit of paint. Just take the time to get a flathead screwdriver, take off your socket cover, tape the face of the plugs, and then paint around it a lot more freely. I also always start painting there. I just get around the electrical sockets. I get around the trim of the wall with a brush before I bring out the rollers. That way, when you get the roller out, you can just and not worry about the details. And by the time you're done with the roller, it's usually time for you to go ahead and do the second coat of paint around all the electrical sockets and everything. And by the time you're done with that, you can put on the plates again. Then by the time you're done with that, you can just go ahead and do the roller, and then you've smoothed out the whole process. You can get your painting done in, let's face it, like 5 hours. Even with that time saving, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to stumble over yourself.
Shit happens.
Trick for the paint roller in the pan, put a trash bag over the pan. That way, when you're done, you don't have to get rid of the pan you just ruined. You just wrap up the trash bag, pull off the paint, it's still good to go. And then you push all the paint in the trash bag down to the bottom, cut a little hole, drain it back into the paint can. You save a ton. Oh, just got reminded. During especially the painting part of the process, have trash bags on standby. Hopefully, if you can, already opened, because when you're pulling down tape, you're folding up the paper on the floor. It's going to be stained in somewhat wet paint, maybe, and you're going to want to quickly be able to fold it and throw it into those trash bags without having to suddenly go, oh, wait, have trash bags on standby. In fact, I actually recommend even buying one of the like really cheap $2 buckets at Lowe's and having that so that if you're in between steps of a process, you can just drop a paintbrush or a paint roller in there and not have to do the thing where you're like, okay, I'm going to put it here on the paper, but I might accidentally step on that spot later getting paint on my foot. Bucket. Buckets are a wonderful thing. I get why there was once a war fought over a bucket. That's a real thing. Also, when you're painting, do a test spot. See how it's going to look with the lighting in your room. Because I made the mistake of picking out a color from Lowe's I thought would look great, painted the entire room that color, and then realized it looked like a giant orange. And so then I had to repaint because it was brighter in my place. Always do a test spot and let it dry completely. Get a step stool. You're going to need one because you're also going to see above all these things. Step stools are just valuable to have in general. Do not get a rickety one. I've made that mistake and fallen on my ass. Expend, get the nicer one, and don't get one of those paint arms that's super extendable and long. In my opinion, you'll miss spots once you're like, blah, and then it's dry. You've already put away the paint by the time you realize like 4 feet up, you missed something. It'll prevent you from doing that if you actually get up on a level playing field with every spot you're painting and look at it. Let it dry for a little bit longer than it says on the can because you're about to be pressing brackets and stuff against it really hard and you want it to be, make sure, fully dry before you do that because eventually one day if you take down your shelves and you put the bracket on the paint even when it's slightly wet and you pull it off, it's going to take a lot of the paint with it. So I even just let it go overnight, which was super overkill with the paint I had, but it was late by that time, and I'd rather be safe than sorry. And in that time, though, you're going to start the worst part of this whole process. In some ways, though, it's the most fun. Actually, it starts really easy. What you're going to do is you're going to take your tape measure. You're going to measure all the tape, right? You're going to go, okay, this is the gerbity inches I need, gerbity inches, and you're going to map out and you draw on your wall. Take a pencil and just draw on your wall. It's okay. You're going to map out exactly where you want all the shelves, how many. I can't walk you through this super in detail because I don't know if you're going to go for like one little corner, a long boy, but do that. And then take that pencil, get your level, keep it level, and just start finding studs. So I love doing this before I even start putting on brackets because it saves me so much time. You're going to take a pencil. I don't have a pencil. Pretend this is a pencil. You're going to start finding studs. Yep, right there. It's starting to give me a little arrow. And then you're going to mark. Then you're going to come back through with your tape measure. And you're going to adjust the marks to all be at the exact same height off of either the trim height, if it's easy to latch onto that, or the floor height. And that way, before you even bring the brackets in, you know exactly where you'll be putting your first hole. And you always need to make sure to adjust that measurement, not to the bottom of the bracket, but to where the first screw hole is. I've made that mistake before where I was like, okay, I'm going to put all the holes here. And then I brought the bracket in and realized, oh, I put the bottom of the bracket where I wanted the screw hole to be. Shit. So just measure the difference between the bottom of the bracket, the screw hole, and then adjust slightly where you want all of them to be. Does that make sense? Choosing your brackets is actually a pretty big deal because you need to make sure they're strong enough to support fuckload book. And I want you to overdo this. Fortunately, there are tons of great brackets out there that are pretty cheap. I just went to Lowe's, dug through their section until I found something that I thought looked good enough. And I bought too many because I wanted to hit every stud. So it's 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 34, 35. 35 brackets for all of this. And yeah, that was a lot of measuring, a lot of marking. Do the measuring and marking before you start screwing. It'll save you such a headache. Get your walls marked up. You're going to cover them with brackets and shelves and books. No one's going to see the marks once it's behind it all. Don't worry about it. It's like, but let your inner 5-year-old come out and start doodling on your wall. It's great. And honestly, this is probably the most expensive purchase I made. Getting quality brackets is not necessarily going to be cheap, but you do not want to cheap out on brackets because they won't necessarily snap or fall out of your wall, but they'll sag. And you don't like sagging. I personally like the kind that just don't have any additional support coming through the middle that have to be flipped down. I like the kind that you can tuck up behind the shelf, and it just means they're usually made a little bit of thicker, nicer metal. Though it's entirely personal preference, and you can also get completely invisible ones that don't poke out from the bottoms like the ones I chose. I would also make sure your brackets, at least in my opinion, have 2 screw holes for the stud. I just find it to be a little more reassuring to me to have a bracket that's hitting a stud twice at every single interval. You'd actually only need it screwing into like the shelf one time because these are heavy. They're not going to be getting slid off. And usually your books are going to be keeping it on there, and one screw in the actual shelf to the bracket is going to be enough. But into the wall, I would recommend a couple. If you, for whatever reason, couldn't do the process where you had to measure out and mark where all the brackets were going to go first, you can also install 2. Then get something long and flat like your shelf, or just have your shelf all ready to go. Lay it down on 2, and then you just put the 3rd up underneath and start marking wherever the screw hole pops up from. And then you're going to keep it perfectly level as long as those first 2 were level. Another trick I've done for previous shelves that work just fine, but the pre-marking on this one, honestly, that resulted in the levelest shelf I've ever had. I'm really psyched about this. It's dead middle. Like, that is center. But this is going to take you to getting wood.
Not like sex.
And I am sad to say that wood prices are not what they once were. And when you go to talk to people at Lowe's or whatever place you go to about wood, someone's inevitably going to make a comment about that. It's just go along with it. Act like you know, yeah, the timber prices because Canadians or something. I don't know. But you're going to get naked wood, just untreated, nice pieces of timber. I forgot to talk about why you shouldn't buy Lowe's pre-stained, pre-sanded, quote, wood shelves. Not only will you be paying drastically more per foot, but very often these are not actually high quality pieces of wood. And if you cut them open, meaning adjust to the size of your wall in any way, shape, or form, what you find inside is particle board and pressed wood that's crap. And then you have an exposed edge that just looks like shit. Also, they're not as thick as the boards and wood you can buy in the back for a lot cheaper, which in my opinion look way better as bookshelves. And you're going to take your measurements, find someone in the store. This is going to require social interaction, and I know you don't like that, but you do not want to have to cut your wood at home because it sucks to do, and it gets sawdust everywhere, and Lowe's will do it for free. So you take them your measurements, and you say, hey, I need these pieces of wood you find. They have like these 10-foot ones, and you can chop them down into a bunch of different sizes, cut to these lengths. Honestly, the Lowe's people tend to be really happy to do it because they get to use this super powerful saw, and I can imagine that's kind of exciting in their day. The guy actually told me, like, we're only allowed 4 cuts per customer, and I went, oh, Could you do a bunch more? And he went, yeah, sure, I don't care. And so he just gave me all these cuts for free, and that was really nice of him. Do you want attention right now? Here, we'll just go. Ugh. How you doing? But you're not just going to come home and slap these pieces of wood on your brackets unless you want that naked wood look. And instead, you're going to get to the aforementioned worst part of the process, which is going to be staining. And oh my God. Well, one, I hope you've cleaned your paintbrush from before. That's also good for paint and stain because we're going to be using that again. But you are going to be as careful as you can possibly be when staining your wood, and you're not going to do it inside, or you're at least going to do it in an unfinished basement or something, because you know what stain is incredibly good at doing? Staining stuff. And I once kicked over a can of stain and don't do that. Do not do that. This time around, I actually stained in my backyard. But before you can even get to staining, which just go to the stain aisle, find a color you like, be aware it's probably going to be a little bit darker than what appears on the can. But before you can even do that, you need to go get sandpaper that matches whatever the instructions on the stain can suggest and sand every piece of wood. That's a huge pain in the ass in the process. That sucks. That really sucks. It's my least favorite thing aside from the staining. But I bit the bullet and bought an electric sander. They're a little bit expensive, but I'm going to be real. You can do like permanent damage to your shoulder, it feels like, with the amount of sanding you have to do. I will say, though, the sanding is worth it because I have also just skipped that step, and the stain did not look as good in the end product, I should say. So make sure you actually do sand it all. It's gonna be awful. It's so bad, and there's sawdust everywhere. But sand it all, wipe it down so your sawdust is off, then stain every single board. I have only ever needed one coat of stain on everything I have ever done, so that's at least pretty fortunate. Let it dry for 24 hours. I'm going to repeat that. Let it dry for 24 hours, not overnight, and not whatever it says in the motherfucking can, because those cans are liars. I have left it for the amount of hours suggested on a can before, come and picked it up, and boop, stoop, boop. Oh, I'm stained. Not like Red Rising, which, by the way, Golden Sun Mega Summary on Patreon right now. That's the only thing sponsoring this video. If you want like 4 hours of my face, go check it out. Bam. So you're going to leave it for 24 hours, and then you're going to give it a thorough inspection, rubbing your hand all over these pieces of wood to make sure they're dry before you bring them into your office environment. It's so important you do this. I cannot stress it enough, because once you're actually lifting your shelves and trying to put them on your bracket, you're going to bump a wall or two. Make sure you have your paint can actually like still available to like do touch-ups when you're done. And if the stain is still wet, even the slightest bit, you're going to have brown markings all over your nice wall. And you don't want that, because especially stain, you got to do a couple layers of paint to cover that up, in my experience. I hate stain. I hate it so much. But then you're going to put them on your shelves. You're going to attach them with the individual screws. And that's going to be like, oh my God, wait, holy crap. Are we already almost done? Yeah. Isn't that great? It's pretty nice. But there's going to be adjustments. Eventually, especially if you have something where there's like two pieces of wood coming to an intersection, just things slightly off, not exactly lining up. My suggestion at this intersection of choice is to not panic and pull everything off the wall and start remeasuring and everything, because depending on how much weight you put on each individual bracket and shelf, it's going to bend a little bit. I'm not saying sagging is not going to happen at all. You're putting heavy books on these. They're going to sag a slight bit, and that's just weight. Like, that's gravity. It's fine. It's when they really start sagging more over time that you need to be worried. So put all your things on, and then take them. Okay, you actually have that shelf bent a little bit to the point where it's actually lined up kind of okay, and you're good. That's actually, you can force it as well by buying these like underpinning metal plates to screw and kind of bend and force shelves to line up. I just don't like doing that, because to me it feels like you're adding a ton of torque. I don't know, on one of the brackets to get it there. And if anything's going to end up tearing it out of a stud, it feels like that's going to be it. So be careful. Don't do that. I don't know if that's good advice or bad. It's just not something that I personally like to do. And then I might seem a little paranoid and crazy. You're going to give it another few hours before you start putting any books on there, because in my personal experience, paper on stain, even if it's dry, somehow finds a way to suck it up. So you're gonna come over here and you're gonna just double touch, triple check. Okay, yeah, the stain, not wet. And after a few more hours, then you're going to start putting all your books on. And isn't that a wonderful thing? I can't believe I'm going to say it here. We're already done. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, that's fantastic. That is step by step how I ended up making these shelves. I couldn't be prouder of them. They've got flaws. They're not perfect in every single little angle, but that's because they weren't made in a factory and no one else owns this exact shelf. And that's really great. And I think total at the end of the day, I spent less than $300 on this process. Granted, I spent way less than that because I'm reusing a bunch of brackets. But if I was starting from scratch, assuming I'm checking out or borrowing a lot of the power tools, I still spent less than $300 in this whole thing, which is like the price of one of the higher end IKEA ones that's still not going to be actually made of timber and instead particle board, which, oh my God, I hate particle board. Now, let's go ahead and move on into like a little bit more of an office tour. Yeah, here's my books on the shelves so far. I'm probably going to change a lot of this because I was just getting them up quick so I could start recording soon. But yay, now we'll just show you the rest of my working space. Okay, so this is not the greatest shot, but we're rolling with it. This is my little reading chair that I actually, when I'm not shooting, have in front of the shelves so that I can just relax and, have a good time reading with right by the window to have sunlight, but I'm pulling that down so I don't get blown out. And you got to have a good pillow. This is the chair I got for a sponsorship deal with Flexi Spot, and then I have a rug down there that I actually made with Kayla. Made that at a tufting place, which is a really, really fantastic date idea. Go tufting. And then most people aren't going to care about this because you don't record yourselves doing stuff in your offices, but these help with white balance and color balance. I never knew that was a thing I had to really care about until recently. And I've actually made a few upgrades to my office because I had people start criticizing my color balancing, and I couldn't let that go. But something I think more people are going to care about are these blinds. Super easy to install. Got them for like $30 on Amazon. I actually even got them open box, which was a additional deal. And they block enough light so that when I film, I can control the face and how it all looks. Very good investment. But let's take you over now to the editing station. Oh, wait, I need to talk about this. If you have not noticed in my career, have tried a lot of different mics here on the channel. This is the one I'll be sticking with probably forever. It's a tried and true Shure SM58? Something like that. And it has a really good balance of being able to be held and waved around without making a ton of noise, while also capturing a pretty good sound profile. There have been a ton of others I've tried, and none have been as versatile as this bad boy. If you want to get any of the equipment I talk about in this video, I'll have affiliate links in the description down below, which helps me. But if you don't want to use them purely out just to spite me, I kind of get that too. That's fine. All right, this is the new editing setup. I'm actually in the same room. There's just two different paint colors. I decided to go like one half to the other. And my setup's actually simplified. I used to have 3 monitors. Really, that's overkill. So instead, I got rid of 2 of my monitors. Super cheap, just sold those off. And I knew because Apple announced their new studio displays, a bunch of people would be selling theirs used for cheap. And so it was like the biggest expenditure I've had for a while, but I finally have a color accurate monitor. So I'll no longer hopefully have videos where I turn out kind of orange. That was an issue before. Color accuracy. Apparently a lot of monitors don't represent the real world well. This one does. Open box, there's a lot of them on the market now because people who can afford brand new ones are getting the new ones, so I recommend you look for those. And Apple being Apple, there's not even that much of an upgrade that I was able to find between the old studio display and the new one, at least for the caliber of work I'm doing here. I have like an M1 Mac, keyboard, wireless mouse. Nothing here is super fancy. This is probably the best investment I've made for myself. It's just a power dock. It has 4 power cords that'll come out so I can charge anything and everything and not really have to worry about it. That's been really nice. And it's minimalist, keeps the wires down, which always bug me. And of course, standing desk. Haha! Oh my God, I have not tested to see if this can stand yet. I don't know if any wires are about to be yanked. This is going to be bad. I should stop it. I should really stop it. Oh no, it just worked. Well, that's good. I'm glad we got through that together. I'm not going to show you the prop closet. It's just a disaster of me throwing all the props in there. But people have asked where the typewriters have gone. I'm keeping them all off camera mostly, but they're all here on my credenza. Looking fine. I enjoy those. And then a couple drawers. You always got to make sure you have a couple drawers for I keep box cutters and stuff in there. And then if you want to know what I use for sound mixing these days, that's going to be a Rode bobber that's on the floor. It has 4 channels, so I can have 4 mics, which is good for whenever I rarely do have a guest on the channel. It works just fine. And I have a back roller because I have lower chronic back pain. I would show you my lighting situation, but in the process of doing this, I have realized that I do not love the lighting setup in this, and it's really hard for me to get myself looking good without shadows. But I guess the final thing to do is to give you like a 360 shot of what exactly is going on in my office. So we have that editing station over to where I can record, and there's the whiteboard, the plaque I dented, and yeah, pretty much my dream office. I'm really, really happy with how it turned out, and I'm not going to be as cramped as I once was in a couple other spaces. And the fact that I even have a reading chair in here, it's pretty nice. Though I think I might move it to another room just because I spend enough hours in here and I don't want to spend more. I think a lot of people who work from home could probably relate to that. But thank you all so much for tuning on into this tutorial / look at my life. And I hope you all are having a beautiful one. I'm working on editing Morningstar Mega Summary now. I hope to have that done in like a week. And again, the Golden Sun one just got put on Patreon. If you'd like to support me over there, those videos, they are so much effort. The only reason I can keep really doing them is the amount of support I've gotten from people who are willing to chuck on over to Patreon just to see them early. So thank you all so much. Love ya, and bye.